Welcome into the Steadfast Brotherhood Podcast, a brand new show for Christian men about faith, about our stories, and how we can grow closer to God together as men. I'm excited about this, something we've talked about for several weeks and put together, and it's the pilot. We're just going to see where it goes from here, but my name is Chris Clegg. I've got with me Daniel Leopard and Jeff Burdette. How are you fellas doing today?
Good. Just excited and see where this heads off to.
Doing good. I'm trying to get used to sitting beside Jeff.
Yeah, the comfortability on the mic comes, and the comfortability. We were all going to sit on the couch. We decided maybe I need to move a chair over here. So a little better idea than three guys sitting on a couch talking about faith, But
yeah, if we have a guest on here, we don't want to come on over here.
Yeah.
Sit right here between us.
Make it feel real comfortable.
Yeah.
Really, we want to start this. We had sat down at Starbucks one day and we're talking about our faith and our stories, and we really are passionate about seeing men come to know Jesus and be good fathers in the household and stewards in the church. And so we really just wanted to provide an avenue for that, to talk about our faith and our stories and bring people on to share their stories, because we believe that our testimonies can be used for God's glory. We all have different stories here, and just truly believe that God uses each of them. Simple story, a complex story, whatever it may be, God can use that to connect with people, which I think is so awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, we kind of start. What led you guys to want to really do this?
So there's a couple other guys that over the past couple months, I guess, would say, "Hey, what's your story?" Or, "Hey, I want to hear more of your story," kind of like at Starbucks. And then another guy in our Sunday school class was like, "Hey, I'd love to start a podcast so we can tell our stories and maybe reach," because he didn't really know how to. You can't just walk up to somebody and say, "Hey, I used to be an alcoholic," or, "Hey, I used to." You can, but that's not really the easy way. So he mentioned a podcast, and it kind of sat dormant on my mind for a while. And then when we were at Starbucks and you brought that up, I was like, here we go. Somebody knows what they're doing, because I'm just a dummy on a mic, right? But so I think it's good to be able to have an avenue to have something, because we all conversate and we all talk about, hey, I'm listening to this podcast, I listen to this podcast, I listen to that, this guy. So it just felt like it was kind of the right time to jump in and start getting some of those stories out.
Yeah, I think so too. I thought Daniel was joking, and Chris was just kind of going to be the nice guy and go along with it. And next thing you know, they started sending me artwork and talking about topics. But I think a lot of it is the same thing, that everybody has a story, but everybody thinks that you have to be on some type of pedestal or be idolized in a certain way for it to even matter. And I was telling Chris right before we started setting everything up, it was pretty interesting. We all met for coffee at like 6 o'clock in the morning. And before we know it, we're just talking to each other. I just met the guy last Sunday. And before we know it, we're all looking at our watches, and almost 3 hours and 15 minutes have passed by, and we were down a rabbit hole of kids, wives, men, faith, everything. And his little idea of just wanting to start it, and here we are, just like, okay, well, we're just three normal guys that are in a walk. I'm very new at this in the walk of faith, so I got guys that's been in it their whole life, and at the same time, it's cool to be around a bunch of men that have the same common ground of just trying to figure out the walk and establishing a brotherhood, which I think is important now. So that's why I'm looking forward to it. And
Yeah.
I'm going to indulge myself in this as best I can. So.
Yeah, and I think that's what you mentioned is important, that we all come from different backgrounds. We've had, some of us have walked longer in the faith than others, but at the end of the day, we're all just men that are just, seeking after God. We're all guys that fall short of God's glory every single day, but that doesn't change the fact that, we're still pursuing God. And I think that's what's important to realize. I think that, one thing Pastor Chad always does is encouraging. He'll definitely step on your toes, but also you walk out encouraged because God did it for us. We don't have to worry about those things in the past, because that's what he died on the cross for, and that's what's so cool. We've all got past sin, we've all got past mistakes, but at the end of the day, we're humans and we're following after God as best we can. So I think that's so fun to see, and that's what I've been so encouraged with here at this church, is just seeing men that are passionate about the Lord, and that's so important. There was a couple stats that I pulled. If the wife only goes to church and not the husband, only 1 in 50 kids will become regular worshipers when they grow up. And that's a powerful stat. You think about our kids, like think about the number of kids you see here at church, but like 1 in 50 if the dad's not here. And that kind of breaks my heart. And we look at the culture, we see the divorce rates are so high. There's not fathers in the home. And I think that this is why I think we really wanted to do this, was to try to be a light for men out there that really need to be the example. And let's not say we're perfect. Man, I fall short every day. I'm not a perfect father, but that's something I'm striving to be better at every single day. So, that's just a stat to me that I look at and like, man, like, what if that was my kid? And so that kind of sticks with me.
Right. And I mean, there's going to be some guys that come on here and they're going to be, we wasn't going to church. My wife was, right? So all walks of life. And I think when you know somebody has been through something that you might be going through, it makes it a little easier to make that transition and go, hey, he's been through the same thing. So I think it'll be neat to hear some of the stories and to really dig down and maybe, who knows what could happen.
Yeah, and I think, from my background, and we can get to it later on, or if I was there to need to share, but my father passed when I was 7, so there was just no male role model really big in my home other than a few coaches here and there, but, seeing, because our kids see more than what they hear, right? And never seeing a guy get his Bible and get dressed up and then walking in the door into the church. And I think church for me and my brother and my mom for a while just became routine because we're Southern. So I kind of want to share a little bit of the story and just be open to people. So maybe there's this kid in this church or kid that I meet in the community or anything like that dad has been gone forever, either by death or just complete separation, and look at it that, hey, like, this 40-year-old dude hasn't got it yet, but he's on the right path, and maybe that's the way I want to go and maybe be a mentor or something of that nature. So I look at that end of the glass a little bit different than most.
Yeah, and I mean, if you look at one of the next stats that Chris pulled up, if the father goes, even if the mother doesn't go, if the father takes the kids become 60 to 70% more likely to go to church as an adult. So that's just that's like you go from 1 to a lot more, right?
Yeah.
So depending on how many you talking about in that segment.
Yeah, and I think the stat shows is like what I learned during our marriage retreat, the 4 P's for a man was, God built us to be as a provider, a prophet, protector, and a priest. Well, it's not made up. There's a science data there on the screen that tells you that what God is telling us and what has been brought forward it's a for real thing. So that hit me hard in, my role as a dad and as a husband. So
yeah, it's staggering when you see the numbers on paper. I think we know the influence that we have in the home, and even here at the church or in the community. I think those are important too, like to think about, because they say, like, talk about teenagers, like the youth here at church, like they really need like 5 to 6 mentors outside of their parents to really stick. Because the reality is, like, when kids graduate high school, they're like there's 80% chance that they leave the church for a period of time when they go to college. Just, we know the ways of the world are out there for them. And they say when they have those mentors beyond the parents too, that they're more likely to attend church when they go to school, wherever it may be. And I think that's pretty powerful, and something I've always been passionate about is just having the mentorship in life, whether it be like coach, like you said, and whether it be here at the church, just pouring into kids or teenagers. But I think the most important things are on home. We got to get our home right first before we can do any of that. And so something for me is like, I want to make sure that, and my kids are younger than y'all's kids, so I've got a 4 and a 1-year-old, but to make sure that they know that Christ is a priority in the home. So that's, Brooke's too young really to understand it, but Hayden's 4, and so like we read the Bible before bed and we pray with him, and we try to talk about, incorporate Jesus into just daily life conversations, because I think that's so important to build that foundation, because that's where we're going to see kids really stick. It's a sticky faith beyond just the Sunday or Wednesday faith. It's an everyday faith, and so that home discipleship is important.
Oh yeah, well, and I think too a lot of it is, I don't know if y'all are like me, but I'm a creature of habit. I like routine. It seems pretty boring and stuff, but I think that that's why we have laws put in place. That's why we have rules in a school. That's why we have respect and rules within our church. Everything in our household is because we are creatures of habit, and what we're trying to do, same thing with you that I'm trying to practice and be better at, is incorporating our Lord in everything that we can do. If my kids are scared of a thunderstorm, I tell them, well, just pray about it, and God will come over and give you about peace about it. And if that makes them feel good. But if it's, then it works. But at the same time, it's like making that a habit. So when that true storm comes about it, then that's the first thing they go to, and not, I want them to come to me, but I want that to be the first action they take. Or even they see my storm coming. I want my boys to be teenagers, grown men, whatever they are, fathers themselves, and praying for their dad when they know my storm is coming. And I think that's what me and my wife are trying to practice more and more now that we're growing in our faith here, one at Matt Pesga and just in Jesus Christ. So.
Yeah, and I think there's another statistic that's not on here, but I think like if you do something 21 days or 21 times, then it becomes a habit. So, you don't have to do it a lot, right? You do it, 3 weeks and you got it whipped. So that's encouraging, right? Like, so you don't have to do something 8 months for it to kind of stick, but it may take 8 months because we may mess up, but.
Well, I think I'm gonna go off, and maybe it's a tangent, but this is me is like, the 21 days is, but for the focus of you even said like the worldly views for our children, going to be college and getting to life's busyness, is I didn't realize how much work this really takes, and really putting forth that practice and work. And I think and we're also in a culture of we're a fast food nation. We want things right here, right now. I want to pray for $1 million, and then I want to wake up tomorrow and God bless me with $1 million. But I've just realized over reading the scriptures and studying and listening to, Pastor Chad and listening to y'all talking and the men's group that I'm in, that it does, you have to put in the work. You have to put in a little bit of effort to watch these words come alive, which they're living words, but to watch them, to put forth that effort so you can see the full fruit of what God's given to us and what he's going to, bless us with at the end. So,
yeah, I think the thing you mentioned about our effort is important because we know that we serve a God that pursues us, right? God chases down after us. He loves us, but I think there's still a requirement on our behalf to actually step into that. You think about the story of the prodigal son, God never left him. He ran far from God, but the Lord was consistently pursuing him, but it took the son saying, you know what, he came to his realization, he's like, I got to go back home. And I think about that a lot, like with our faith. There's times when we won't be, let's say we walk away, but we may not be as close to Jesus as we'd like to be. We go through seasons of life that are hard sometimes. But, I think that it's that effort on our behalf to consistently be in the Word, as you said, and just pursuing Jesus like he pursues us. I think that effort on our behalf is sometimes a little bit discounted, but I think it's so important that we put in the time and we put in the effort.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and like we talked about it Sunday, like if him knowing, like we need to tell others what's going on, and I think having men and having other guys when you surround yourself, because you said the kids need 5 or 6 others, we do as well, because idle time is not great time. Right, it can be, but it normally ends up as the devil's playground a lot of times if you just by yourself all the time in that way. So I think having a couple of guys where you can call and go, hey, I'm struggling with this, or hey, I see some stuff on social media a lot that, who's your kid going to call if they don't call you? Like, that hit me last week. Like, if Cawthon has a problem or something and I'm not around, what man is he going to call? And I'm like, well, I can't really answer that.
Yeah. I think that's an important thing when you think about the influence, that we have as men. And I think that brings about, you talk about like a culture of like just being together. People say, well, you can be a Christian and not go to church, and that's true, but the community is so important, having those people that, not only we can rely on, but our kids. I think that's a really good point you bring up.
Yeah, and so I'm not going to tell Jeff's story. He can do that, but it's funny and it's neat to hear that everywhere he went, somebody was saying, hey, won't you come?
Oh, yeah, it was
come
annoying.
to church?
It was annoying. Everybody was picking on me, I felt like, be in a group conversation at the ball field, or even at a buddy of mine goes here in the gym, and it was just them, them God pokes at you, where I'd see a group of men just leave, and I'd be walking the opposite direction of my car, and all of a sudden one of my buddies in our Bible group stopped. I'm like, man, you ever go to church or nothing? I'm like, I'm just trying to go get an ice cream. My kid ain't worried about Jesus stuff. Or I'm in the gym, I was like, I'm just trying to not be fat. And I ain't worried about Jesus in here, and then, here we are a year later with a lot more story to tell about that year and a half. So, but yeah, it all started with a group of men doing that. So.
Yeah, and so I think that's another reason why we're sitting here doing this is because you got a powerful story, and you were influenced by, let's say, God. Definitely, it was God's doing, but like other men were along the path there, kind of pushing you in some ways. So like I think that's so important. As we'll talk to other people, like as we continue to do this, like there's so many stories where it's like that, where it's like this person was here at this spot. God used this person at this time, and I think that we look back at our lives, and it's probably the same way. Like I got saved at a young age, but it was still kind of the same thing where like there was people in my life that really pushed me towards God, and then God was continuing to work on me and working through those people. And I think God continues to want to use us too. I think that's so important that we are His vessels, and we are, wherever we go. I think that's so cool. Like at the baseball field or the gym, like people are being like stewards of the Lord.
When I say it was annoying, man, I was mad. Like it was to the point like I would turn on the other end of music just to watch that stuff. I'm like, this is annoying. Well, I'm gonna see it. I'm just trying to test him. Like, okay, that's just a cool little coincidence, brother. But my ways are better than yours, type stuff. And again, here I am sitting in a church on Wednesday talking to a bunch of guys about this kind of stuff. But it's like what you said about the story. I think that was one of the reasons I wanted to be a part of this, is for the simple fact is everybody thinks you have to be a drug addict that was drug out of the ditch by an angel that you saw in a vision that saved your life, and now here you're leading them, a group of 3,000. That's the story that people, especially me, I think that people want to hear. But when I've been in my men's group or just having a conversation during the marriage retreat that we were involved in and listen to everybody's story, it's incredible, but it's not what you think. It's not that, example I gave to people. And that's what I love hearing about. Like you said, you grew up in faith and your call was a certain way. Well, but still hear that God's still working in you and how powerful it can be to you influence somebody else and your family and all that kind of same thing with Daniel. And it's like, okay, so my story is just as good. My testimony is just as good, because there's probably a normal dude like me that probably has the same story, and it's going to resonate with, and it's going to grab a hold of his heart and push him maybe in a certain different way. Same thing with yours and yours. So that's why I think most people don't want to tell their testimony and story, because we're doing the ego and the pride thing. Well, mine's not as good as Daniel, so I'm going to sit here and be quiet.
Yeah, and I think too, like if you don't have a great story, but it's still a story, and you can still reach people. Like if you're, I think there's a lot more people that's just normal that think their story isn't that big, right? But you don't know how God works in those ways, and you can have a great testimony without a big, huge, car crash or
right, exactly.
Whatever. But I think the key word, like you were talking about earlier, like I think the big part too is surrender, right? Like you got your ego and you got your pride, and the last thing you want to do is come underneath somebody and go, okay, I want to do what you want to do all the time. Because, I may be wrong, but I think we all struggle with that. Because, we're men and we want to be able, well, if I say this, but to then go, okay, God, I'm going to surrender. That's tough.
I've never liked that word.
Yeah.
I hated that word. That was one thing I told Pastor Chad. I just have a hard time with that word. To me, it just seems weak. And it was like another thing of, I'm a military guy, so our old saying is just, you change your socks, you drink water when there's problems. It's your load, you carry it. Ain't nobody, you want to talk, I want to talk to Chris about a problem, well, he's got problems. So we'll make sure a problem any better than him, so just suck it up. And truth is, it's not that way. And it's more important. When I learned that men's conference we were in Simpsonville, have you been to that? The men's conferences, man, you got to go. Yeah. But it was incredible to watch. Was it like 900 plus men, I think, in this church?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
From all different states and around South Carolina, and to watch men, right? Like burly men, your metro-looking guys, your
Timmy, like that.
yeah, your Timmys, and then guys that looked like me or tatted up and, you know, that kind of thing. I knew 2 guys that were drug addicts that were a good friend of mine that I saw there that pointed me out. But when I looked at it and I saw guys crying, but I also saw guys with their hands up worshiping, and all 900 men are singing, you know, and it's just like, so this ain't that weak at all.
Yeah, and I think too, like,
You know,
I
it's
mean,
incredible.
even now, like, for the longest, and with you kind of coming in over the last year or so, and then you growing up in it and being in it, I think women always beat the men, right? They're always having a Bible study. They're always going on a women's retreat.
Well, I think some of our wives are having dinner tomorrow and we wasn't invited. So.
Well, that's true. Yeah. Hey, I got dinner tomorrow night with the girls from church. Okay. What am I going to do? But they do. But I think doing things like this, I think what I'm seeing is here lately, this is becoming more and more of a thing for men. Yeah.
Normal.
Yeah. So I think that's good. And statistically, if you go in line with those, and this may be stupid, but it's just how my brain works. The women are doing more Bible studies, and the kids still ain't coming to church.
Yeah.
The men, if they do something, then you're getting a bigger percentage. Am I right? Or is that?
Yeah, I mean, like, just a couple more of them. Like we said, if the father goes, regardless of the mother, it's like 67 to 70% chance that they'll attend as adults. If the mother attends, children are 40% less likely to attend worship if it's just the mother. Because if dad's sitting at home on Sunday, you know, as the kid.
Yeah, and if he's got a boy, he's like, I want to stay at home with dad. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to go.
So, like, you may hear that number and think that's crazy, but that's kind of the reality, right? I mean, the boy wants to stay home, do what dad does, you know, maybe even the daughter. So when both parents attend a Bible study and Sunday worship, 72% chance that children will do both as adults. So, like,
That's crazy.
that's powerful. You know, and we think about that. It goes down, father only, father does both, 55% chance, mother only 15% chance that the kids are attending both as adults, neither 6% chance. So, like, you look and, you know, you see other people, like out, I think, you know, where our kids are, at the sports fields, wherever it may be, like, there's people like that need to hear us be a testimony, you know. Now your story where people were at you in the ball field or the gym, like, you can be that for somebody else. You can be that annoying pest, but God's using you, right? And it may just be God working on somebody's heart over time. And that's so cool, I think.
Yeah, and it wasn't really anybody beating you over the head with it. It was just like,
that's the thing.
hey, man.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I've told Chad plenty of times, and I mean, he told a story. You know, first time I came here, I didn't like him or anything he was saying because I felt like you said stepping on toes. I felt like Pastor Chad was punching me in my face. But it wasn't that Bible beating, punish you, tell you everything that you were doing wrong, which I really, be honest with you, probably my teenage years to my young adult years, that's what I thought. I was like, well, I mean, the Bible's a good story, and it's probably good morals to live by, but no matter what you do, you're never going to amount to anything right in that book. So what's the point of going into that building? What's the point of doing this? And then again, here I am in this community for whatever reason that God placed these people in my life to just poke at me and to show it come out of love, concern, and being sincere about it than it was to, on the right hand, just smack me upside my face with it every time and push me away from it. So, yeah, it's wild.
Well, I think it's been phenomenal. And then, you know, you go a step further, and now there's guys that you're praying for.
Oh, yeah.
On a daily that a year ago wasn't even.
Well, I mean, I'd probably say I'd pray for you.
Yeah.
And then I'd go eat my cheeseburger and wouldn't do anything. You know, it's just kind of a Southern thing. Man, I'll bless his heart and I'll pray for you. And then we just kind of move on our business. But now it's a different, because I'm pretty sure I had men praying for me and it worked.
Yeah, but how, like, I think that's like a norm in culture. Like, even in, like, church culture, to say, well, I'm gonna pray for you. But, like, I've tried to get to the place where I'll just say, like, why don't we pray right now? Like, if I'm on the phone with somebody, hey, let's pray about it right now. Or if we're, you know, at church, let's pray about this. Because I think that's a bad place to be, where we say, oh, we'll just pray for you. But, like, how often are we actually doing that? But, you know, I thought about, like, you were talking about the men rising up in the culture. I think that's just a different culture that's been cultivated here, and maybe other places too. But, like, I'll tell you, like, I've seen a lot of weak men places, and, like, Christian men that aren't leading the household how they're supposed to be. And so that's what I've been so encouraged by here at Pisgah, is just seeing the men that, when I went to, I showed up to y'all's grow group, and then Timmy's like, hey, we got a men's group Tuesday night. I was like, sure, I'll come. Like, I'm brand new to this church, but like, I'm like, that's just my personality, is to dive right in. That's all I've known, is just, being all in on it. And so like, I go to the grow group at Timmy's house, and these men are so open to like what they're going through. And that's so different than everything I've experienced in church. So like, I think the culture here is just so unique and good, like with godly men that are actually pursuing it. And that's what fires me up. And that's what gets me so excited.
Yeah. And I think, I'm 45, and there's a time when, like, Timmy, a good friend of ours, is 55, 56. Will says 65, but
I wish him a happy 21st birthday the other day.
So he's older, but I'm still learning, right? Like the aspect you just said. Timmy we talk on the phone a good bit, and he was one of the first guys I was sharing something with, and he was like, let's pray about that right now on the phone. And then I was telling my wife about that, and she was like, well, you need to mirror that, if you ever get in that spot. And I'm 45, like.
Well, and it's those things, like what I gathered from this church and the men, and I'm pretty sure kind of piggybacking what you said, is it was weird to hear men say, man, I love you. Like, come on. Like, and I'm like, what? Like, usually women do that, oh, girl, you look good, I love you, good to see you. Men just kind of like, we joke on each other and, give each other a hard time to show how much we love. And like, coming into this building and getting to know guys, and when guys come out, hey man, I'm praying for you, I love you, and I'm just like, it's the sincerity behind it. And I visited a couple churches before here. I'm not saying they did anything wrong, but I think your home is your home. But this was like the first church I heard, because most churches, and I don't know if y'all can contest this or not, but like they're like, our women's program is really good. So if your wife won't hear, and then there's always the children's program, which I think those two things are important just as much as anything else. But you never heard anything about the men, not rarely, And if you did, it was, the men usually eat at Jimmy's and Easley at about 400 in the morning to eat breakfast. But they're all white-haired guys. I'm like, well, there's nothing for me in my 30s, 40s, or something like that. And then when I came here, and I was invited to the men's conference, and I was just kind of visiting, and then here we are at a men's battle that Pastor Chad had going on, and really trying to develop men. And I'll keep running along with this, but this was part that made me laugh in church, because I was just visiting. I was just kind of looking around, checking out the surroundings of people, and he was speaking on something like just your biblical responsibilities as a couple, right? And he gets to the point where he tells the women, like, some of the things y'all are lacking is you forgot what your place is in the household. And I'm just kind of like, okay, I've heard this before in, the Southern world. And, you hear a couple guys, amen, on the bat. And then he flips and he's like, but the real problem in this culture, and in the church especially, is you men are weak and won't be men. And I didn't think he was talking to me, because I'm just visiting. But I'm like, there's probably people that have been coming here for a decade. And I almost want to sink down in my chair like, oh, buddy, you made some people mad. But I've never heard that.
Oh, yeah, it don't feel good.
And it hit me. Again, I'm visiting. I'm just trying to check it out. But, man, I'm like, you literally punched all your people that have been faithful to you as your leader in your church. You punched every single one of these dudes in the face. If they're not doing what they're supposed to. And I was like, this is going to be a ride.
Like, that's how we grow, right? I think it doesn't feel good in the moment, but like, it's how you grow is getting beat up sometimes. And like, you need to hear that truth, because what I love about Pastor Chad is he stands on the truth no matter what. He's not afraid to say it. If it's in the Word, that's what matters. And so standing on the truth is important, and we've got to stand on that truth as men. So. And
he doesn't hold himself above you. I love when he says every Sunday, if not every other Sunday that I go, is the only difference between me and y'all is I stand here and y'all sit there. That's it. We're all trying. I'm still trying to figure this out. And it's like, man, you see a guy that's been studying and been called to do something, and he's still saying he's figuring out and he's leading. Doesn't make you feel a less of a man than anybody else. So it makes you feel comfortable with rubbing elbows with the next guy, because again, your walk is a lot longer than mine. Yours might be deeper than mine, and mine might refresh y'all's, because you remember, it doesn't. It's all a piece of the puzzle, and that's what I love about this church. What I love about the men, I'm getting to grow and love and get to know, and yeah, it's amazing here.
Yeah, and I just think that's why this can, you see podcasts from other states that's men that's doing the same thing we are, and I'm listening to them, and I'm like, okay, that's great, but I don't see them on a daily, right? I don't run into those guys, so. And there may be some here in the upstate that I just don't know about and hadn't seen, but I'm like, man, if we could just kind of mirror that, and then you actually see the people that's going through stuff and can actually talk to them, like to me, that's pretty important, because we can all watch TV and well, that's in Louisiana or that's in Texas or that's happening over there, but when it's happening here, it's a little different ball game.
Yeah, and that culture inspires others, I think. Like
Yeah.
you said, if people see it happening here in Piedmont, easily, where I think it's easily addressed here, but, like, they're more apt to get on board with it. Like, I've been more excited in 2 months here than I've been in a long time about my faith, just seeing everybody else and seeing the men. And so, like, I've been so encouraged in that way. And, like, talk about my story, like, it feels insignificant at times. Like, I grew up in the church from the day I was born. I got saved at 10 years old. But, like, God's still working on that, like, every single day. And so, like, that's not to say I haven't walked through battles and gone through struggles, but, like, God still uses that. While I feel my story is so simple, like, it's still God's story at the end of the day. And so I think that's what's cool, is that all of our stories, and you said it, like, can encourage one another, from, like, you're kind of refreshing us in some ways. Where, like, you've just gotten saved recently and baptized last week, which is so cool.
Yeah,
like,
I
that's
wasn't trying to
refreshing.
throw that in the face. I don't think I refresh it, but it's. Yeah.
That's refreshing to me. I was so excited to see that.
I think this is just a piece of the puzzle. I think everybody's looking at something, and again, with the men, it's like, man, I've been doing this for a while, and just again, I think that probably most people that have been walking their faith, you forget that moment, and then you see a person come to believe it, and you're like, man, okay, so maybe God takes you back and says, see where I had you, and that's the way you were, and it's a cycle, and that's what I think here's. What I've experienced in a year and a half, it's just recycling that old and new and everything, and it feels like it's flowing now. And I don't know. It feels special.
And it was refreshing, and like it was like, so when you got baptized, I said, hey, what time you getting baptized? 9:30. Man, we got grow group at 9:30. I can't come. Well, then ended up I teach. Timmy's gone. And I said, well, we're just going to go down there. So I told Chad, I said, hey, what do you think? Like, because I didn't know. Like, do you think it's all right if we go down there? And then I thought the men would want to go. And I'm like, well, why not just take everybody? And so then, like, we take everybody, and that's you just visited our Sunday school class. Right? Like, you hadn't said, hey, add me to the roll or anything. And it really don't matter, right? You go to another grow group, that's fine. But just to have the freedom to walk down there and watch and then come back up, like, for everybody, like, in the grow group, they were like, man, I'm glad we did that. Like, that was really neat to see. Yeah.
And I would think it was a powerful testimony to other people, too, like the community that is in our group, just to see everybody there at the back and Will hollering, it's funny.
That was awesome.
But it was cool because
my Nana was blown away because we grew up Pentecostal, and she's like, man, that was a very different energy in that place for baptism. And I'm like, yeah, it's different. But she loved it. She was like, man, and she even said it, and she's almost 80, and she was like, yeah, she's like, I can't tell why you call this home. And she's like, there's something special inside that place. And that's coming from somebody just sat in there for an hour, and I'll go on, since she opened that door with the baptism, this was the most incredible thing. And I shared it with Chad, and is the overwhelming text messages, social media messages, and then when I came back to church this past Sunday, that evening, usually women are the ones that come up and get soft with you, grab your neck, oh, baby, that was good, bless your heart, It was nothing but these dudes blowing me up all day, saying how incredible, how awesome, welcome, can't wait to walk with you. I mean, everything, to the point on Monday morning while I was at work, and Chad even texted me again, was like, hey, man, it's this, I love you. Just remember, you're still learning, you're still growing, and if you need me, I'm here. And it's just that was mind-blowing on the other end of the spectrum of on the earthly ways, as these men were just blowing my phone up, being excited like I scored the touchdown of the national championship, you know. And I've never, I mean, I think the only thing close to it was probably my military career, is ever seen a brotherhood kind of like that way that made me fall back like, okay, so there is something past a lot of pain and drinking and partying and, you know, fighting and all that kind of stuff, to instill a brotherhood and something that on the other end of the spectrum is a lot of love and compassion and guidance and all. I mean, it was incredible.
Well, and two, I think, like, I mean, you're 40, right? Got saved right before 40. Like,
Yeah, the day before.
Like you hear these stories, you know, and we've got another, I mean, at least 10 or 15 guys that we talk to on a weekly basis that have tremendous stories that are just all walks of life, right? And that doesn't mean we're not going to mess up. I mean, we may go out here today and, you know, do something, but then having that brotherhood that you're talking about to say, messed up here. Yep, didn't mean to do that. I knew it when I was doing it, I shouldn't do it, but here we are, you know. And to have somebody to, because I think sometimes as men, we eat that stuff. We put our socks on, drink our water, and we roll on, and we don't realize what help can do for us. Like somebody else, just to get it off your mind, just to ease your mind, say, hey, I got you back, or, you know, whatnot. You don't ever know what just speaking to somebody else. Now, you do have to be cognizant of, like, you don't want to tell somebody one thing that you're going through and know that they're going to go tell 87 people, right? You want to try to have a close knit, but, you know, that story, you can wide cast that thing and really have some close help.
Yeah, for sure. So it's been like, I haven't known you guys long, but I feel like y'all have just welcomed me, and I've been so encouraged by that I feel like that I can just open up and talk with you guys even after a short period of time. And that means a lot. That's the brotherhood that, you know, we're all seeking. And that's why I kind of want to do this podcast and named it that, just given the brotherhood that we have and that we're building and hope to continue to build and cultivate that culture, because it is so important to have those people in your life to walk alongside you in all aspects of life.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's those things, like I said, that I learned in that men's conference with that word brotherhood, because I think friends is a term we use very loosely, you know, and it's okay to call people your acquaintance or just your colleague or anything like that, but what I'm observing, you know, sitting in this church with a group of men from all different walks of life, all struggles, you know, all that kind of stuff, is that, again, they're really trying to hold you accountable, have a hard conversation at times if you need it, but it's on a love aspect and a soft aspect, but also having that joke and giving you a hard time and all that kind of stuff like we love to do. So to have that term brotherhood, I think, is become more important for me, to have good friends and good fellowship, but also have a good accountability partners. That's not my wife. You know, can take a look on the outside and say, hey man, you know, you're sucking today, and it's okay, because sometimes it sucks to suck, but it's not going to come from, like, you know, your wife saying that. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, and then you're just going to continue doing it because, you know, she's just going to get over it anyway. Yeah. Just have somebody, a good buddy, you to have that good conversation that, you know, kind of checks you for a moment and steers you back, because like I said, we're going to mess up, we're going to fall off, and, you know, I think when guys fall off and then they get, because I'm bad about it, they compartmentalize it, they sit in the corner, they get quiet, and they just figure out, I got me, and I'm going to worry about it. And that's where my problems came, and that's where I think a lot of guys' problems come. Because, again, I don't want to come for you my problems. You got problems. So what, you know, I'm not trying to one-up your problems with my problems, you know, type stuff. Yeah,
no, and to add to that, a friend of mine pops in my brain. We got kids that are the same age. He'll call me and, man, I want to choke mine right now. Teenagers. And I'm like, yeah, me too. And then you never know what advice or what just a little tidbit, you know, or what podcast or what verse. I mean, it may just something simple that talks you off the ledge, right? Like, so you don't choke somebody or tase them in the face. I mean,
there's a story behind that. he's just gonna give a hard time. So.
Yeah, I got the video evidence.
Phil, is there anything else you want to bring up, talk about today? If not, we can close it out.
No, I think that I'll close this. We don't know where this is going to go. We don't know. Kind of doing it for fun, for the idea. I think people have a great idea and nobody's willing to run it. So thank to Chris for saying, "Well, I got stuff. We'll do it." And then, doing that kind of stuff. But we really hope that, again, we reach I think we want to reach people within our community, and you're able to. Not to sound weird about it, but you're able to touch us, talk to us, hear us, and all that kind of stuff. So it doesn't seem like, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is telling you to do this, and you're like, yeah, cool, but you're never going to meet the guy. So it doesn't have any substance behind his motivational speaking. So we're just hoping that we're just three dudes that just doesn't have it figured out, but has maybe a little bit of spices of that recipe that maybe from a person that's been in faith a long time, one that's same thing, that's deep in faith, in his faith, and one that's I'm brand spanking new at this, and to put our little spices in the pot to hopefully come up with a good recipe that everybody can feed off of. So,
yeah, I think too, like there's a little video clip that's got like two guys, and it says becoming a Christian, and it's got like a new Christian, and it says it's real easy, and then you got a Christian that's been there for a while, right? And he goes, no, it's not that easy. Like, so it is, but you got the older Christians like, no, it's not. But, and I'm probably butchering it. I'll have to find it and send it to y'all. But it's like being a newer Christian, like you're not afraid to share. I mean, you threw that baptism out there on social media, and somebody like me, if I do something and God does something, I'm not as apt to do that, right? I don't know why. Maybe Chris can tell us. He's the smart one here. But yeah, so it's good, I think.
Yeah, and we just hope that we can encourage somebody. Even if we get one person that's encouraged, we impact one person. We hope that the stories that we share over the course of the life of the podcast, that they may touch somebody, and we hope to bring a wide variety of people in just to share their stories, because I think that when we do that, we're vulnerable, but it also reaches people and impacts people. Like I know your stories impacted me, and you shared a little bit of your story, and all of our stories impact one another. And so I think that's what really grows the brotherhood, is that when we're just open and we share life experiences. So that's so cool.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, well, that's going to do it. That's episode 1. That's the pilot.
Hey,
Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll be back with you maybe next week.